They say it's just a joke, but it feels like a jab. They twist a story until you're somehow the one to blame, leaving you feeling small and powerless in your own family. It's that draining feeling after a family get-together, that sense of having your worth chipped away by the very people who should be building you up. It's a silent prison. But what if you could build an unbreakable shield against this manipulation? What if you could stand firm in the storm of their words, completely untouched by the emotional chaos? The ancient Stoics mastered this art. And it isn't about fighting back, arguing, or trying to change them. It's about changing the very ground you stand on, so their games can no longer reach you. Today, we're going to learn how to use their most powerful tool, the dichotomy of control, to reclaim your peace and your self-worth. Stick with me, because we are going to build your inner citadel, a fortress of tranquility that no family manipulator can ever breach. If you're ready to stop letting their toxicity define you and start living with a quiet strength, then this is where you begin. The foundation of your unbreakable shield is the single most practical idea in all of Stoicism: the dichotomy of control. The philosopher Epictetus laid it out with stark simplicity. Some things are up to us and some things are not. It sounds obvious, but truly living by this rule is a revolutionary act, especially within a family. So what's not up to you? Their words, their moods, their decision to disguise a cruel insult as a harmless joke, their choice to shift blame and rewrite history to make you the villain. You can't control their actions, their opinions, or the emotional games they play. Trying to is like trying to command the tides. It only leads to exhaustion and despair. So much of our suffering comes from this one mistake, trying to control the uncontrollable. Now, let's focus on what is up to you: your judgments, your responses, your actions, and your inner peace. This is your sacred territory. This is your inner citadel. When a family member says, "I was just kidding, why are you so sensitive?" after a cutting remark, the manipulative trap is set. They are trying to make their behavior your problem. The untrained mind will fall right into it. It will argue, defend itself, and try to make them see the hurt they've caused. In doing so, it hands over the keys to its own emotional state. The Stoic mind, however, pauses. It recognizes the jab for what it is: an external event, something not in its control. The words are just sounds in the air. The intention behind them belongs to the speaker, not to you. Your power lies in that tiny space between their words and your response. In that space, you get to choose. You can choose to see their comment not as a reflection of your worth, but as a reflection of their own character. You can choose not to internalize the poison. This isn't suppression, it's intelligent discernment. You're not ignoring what happened. You are simply refusing to give it power over your tranquility. This is the first and most crucial shield. By focusing relentlessly on what you can control, your perception and your response, you begin to starve the manipulator of the very emotional reaction they feed on. When someone shifts blame onto you, making you feel responsible for their anger, the primal urge is to fight back. They say, "I wouldn't get so angry if you didn't constantly push my buttons." And your mind just screams to correct the injustice, to list all the reasons they're wrong and you're right. This is a path to endless, draining conflict. You're playing their game, on their field, and by their rules. The Stoic shield against this is to respond with virtue, not vengeance. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who performed the injury." Your goal isn't to win the argument. Your goal is to preserve your character and your peace. Manipulators and blame shifters thrive on chaos. They want to drag you into the mud with them because it validates their story and distracts from their own accountability. When you refuse to engage with that same reactive anger, you break the cycle. This is the perfect place to use a powerful modern technique with a Stoic core, the gray rock method. Imagine yourself as a dull gray rock. When the manipulator prods you with accusations or guilt-tripping, you offer zero emotional reaction. You're uninteresting, you're boring, your responses become short, factual, and completely devoid of emotional fuel. To the person who says, "You make me so mad," you don't argue, "No, I don't. You're the one with the temper." Instead, a Stoic-inspired response might be a calm, "I can see that you're upset." Or, even more powerfully, silence. Silence isn't weakness, it's a fortress. It communicates that you will not participate in the false reality they're trying to build. This takes immense self-control, one of the core Stoic virtues. It's not about being passive, it's about being strategically non-combative. You're refusing to add fuel to their fire. You are demonstrating through your actions that your inner state is not for them to control. By choosing a response rooted in calm and reason, you hold on to your dignity and starve the conflict of the drama it needs to survive. You're choosing your virtue over their vengeance. Which of these tactics feels most familiar to you? Is it the disguised joke that stings, or the constant blame shifting that leaves you defending yourself? Share your experience in the comments below. Recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. In the heat of a family conflict, the world shrinks. A single cutting remark or a false accusation can feel all-consuming. It replays in your mind, sparking waves of anger, hurt, and anxiety. This is emotional tunnel vision, and it's where manipulation does its most devastating work. The Stoics had an antidote for this, a practice often called the view from above. It's a mental exercise in perspective. When you feel yourself being pulled into that emotional vortex, you consciously zoom out. Imagine yourself floating up, out of the room, looking down on the scene. See everyone involved, including yourself, as tiny figures in a vast landscape. From this vantage point, see the argument for what it truly is. A fleeting moment, a tiny blip in the grand timeline of your life, and an even smaller speck in the history of the universe. Does this one joke or this one unfair accusation really have the power to destroy your peace? From this height, the emotional charge starts to fade. You see the manipulator not as a towering monster, but as a flawed, perhaps unhappy person acting out their own internal struggles. Their words become less of a personal attack and more of a symptom of their own condition. As the philosopher Seneca urged, we should observe patterns over isolated incidents. From this higher view, you can see those patterns more clearly. You realize this isn't about the one thing they said today. It's part of a long-standing pattern of behavior. It's not about you being too sensitive. It's about them being consistently disrespectful. This perspective shift doesn't excuse their behavior. What it does is grant you emotional detachment. It lets you see the event with clarity instead of being drowned by it. The insult is no longer a defining truth about you, but a piece of data about them. It informs your future interactions and strengthens your resolve to protect your inner peace. By taking this view from above, you stop being an actor in their drama and become an observer. You see the game, and you can choose not to play. The power of their manipulation crumbles when you refuse to grant it the outsized importance it craves. You reclaim your perspective, and in doing so, you reclaim your power. For many of us, the idea of setting a boundary with a family member is terrifying. It's wrapped in layers of guilt, obligation, and the fear of being labeled selfish or cold. Manipulators are experts at exploiting this. They use phrases like, "After all I've done for you," or "family should stick together no matter what," to frame your attempts at self-protection as a betrayal. They want you to believe that your comfort is less important than their ability to act without consequence. The Stoic approach to boundaries is radical because it is completely free from guilt. A boundary isn't a punishment for others. It's a non-negotiable act of self-respect. It's the practical application of the dichotomy of control. You can't control if they'll try to cross your lines, but you absolutely can control what you will do when they try. A boundary isn't a request. It's a declaration of your own action. It's not, "Please stop making jokes about my weight." That gives them the power to say no. A Stoic boundary is, "If you make jokes about my weight, I will end the conversation and leave the room." And then you must follow through. Without drama, without anger, without a long explanation. The first time you enforce it, there will probably be a backlash. They might call you disrespectful or overly dramatic. This is just the manipulative system fighting back to maintain control. But as the Stoics remind us, we should hold those close to us to a higher standard, not a lower one. Familiarity is never an excuse for toxicity. Enforcing a boundary is an act of integrity. You are aligning your actions with your values. Your value is peace. Your value is self-respect. Their insults and blame shifting violate those values. Your boundary is the shield that protects them. It teaches people how you demand to be treated, not by your words, but by your actions. It says, "My peace is more important than your comfort in disrespecting me." This isn't selfishness. It's the ultimate form of self-care and a fundamental requirement for a tranquil life. We've walked the path of the Stoics and armed ourselves with 4 unbreakable shields. First, we mastered the dichotomy of control, learning to distinguish between their chaos and our calm, focusing our energy only on what is ours to command, our own response. Second, we chose virtue over vengeance, refusing to play the blame game and instead meeting manipulation with the quiet strength of a gray rock, preserving our character. Third, we took the view from above, gaining the perspective to see their games for the small, fleeting things they are, and detaching our self-worth from their words. And fourth, we learned to build boundaries of self-respect, understanding that protecting our peace isn't an act of aggression, but a duty we owe to ourselves. These are not just philosophical ideas, they are practical tools. They are your weapons in the quiet battle for your own mind. The goal was never to change them. The goal is to make yourself impervious to their attempts to diminish you. Your worth is not a fragile thing to be debated at the family dinner table. It is an internal fortress, built by you and protected by you. It is your inner citadel. Their games only work if you agree to play. Their manipulation only has power if you grant it. So the final question isn't about them, it's about you. Are you ready to stop playing their game and reclaim your peace? If this message resonated with the quiet warrior inside you, subscribe and join our community. We're dedicated to exploring ancient wisdom for modern problems. For your next step, watch our video on the 6 toxic behaviors you should never tolerate. And always remember, in the words of Marcus Aurelius, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Protect them well,